Only when they were in Sido's chamber, with the screen moved to block off the peephole, did Jan finally feel safe. Safe enough to say, "We must lie him down." "Of course," said Sido, pulling back the bed covers. It took all Jan's strength to get Tetu's heavy body up on the bed. He was an alarming sight, with all the colour drained from his face. Hastily, Jan covered the dwarf with a quilt, his anger subsiding a touch when he saw Sido standing there anxiously watching. The only hope he had of escaping lay with her. "Who is he?" she asked. "His name is Tetu. He's looked after me since I was born. We work together, with Topolin." "What about the magician?" asked Sido. "Is he dead?" "His heart gave out," said Jan. "I don't believe that." She said it so bluntly that he knew she couldn't be fooled. "No, it isn't true, but there's no time to explain. We have to get out of here. I need your help." "But what can I do?" "Be brave." "I don't think I am brave." He smiled at her. "I know you are. Will you stay here while I search for a way out?" The thought of being alone in the room with the sleeping dwarf terrified Sido. But when she looked into Jan's dark eyes, she knew she would do as he asked. With a sickening feeling in her stomach, she nodded. The silence after he had gone felt almost solid, as if it were pressing down on her chest, squeezing the air out of her. She sat on a chair by the bed and told herself again and again to be calm. A few minutes later there was a knock on the door. Sido felt every nerve in her body tighten. Checking that Tetu was completely covered, she took a deep breath and said, "Come in." Count Kaliowski stood in the doorway, Balthazar at his side. "I came to see if you were all right. You vanished so quickly after the little show." He entered the room, closing the door behind him. "Why, my dear child, how pale you are. You look as if you've seen a ghost." Sido moved towards the bed. "It was only an illusion, you know. No harm was done." Despite herself, she began to shiver, and as if in response, Balthazar started to growl softly. Count Kaliowski looked around him suspiciously. "I was feeling very tired, sir," said Sido hastily. "I came up to my chamber to lie down. I have not eaten since early this morning, and there has been more excitement than I'm used to."
"Your life at the convent is, I imagine, a quiet one,"
said the Count. Sido nodded and wondered if her legs would continue to support her. They felt like hollow reeds shaking under her petticoats. The Count stood facing her, his shadow casting a monstrous figure on the wall behind him, one that appeared to possess a multitude of hands, all poking and prodding into the dark recesses of the bedchamber. The bed with the sleeping body of the dwarf was only 3 steps away. Balthazar had begun to edge closer, his growling becoming more insistent.
"You are alone, of course?" asked the Count.
"Why, yes, sir."
"Do you mind if I see what has caught Balthazar's fancy?"
The Count moved forward. Now only 2 steps separated him from the dwarf. "Please, sir," pleaded Sido. "I am frightened of dogs, and it is clear that yours does not like me."
"You have no need to fear Balthazar," said the Count with a smile. "He will not harm you. He only growls at strangers."
If Count Kaliowski moved 1 more step, it would all be over. She would be sent back to the convent in disgrace. As for the boy and the dwarf, she hardly dared think about it. "Please, sir, it is not right or proper for a man to visit a girl's chamber. The Mother Superior would be shocked to hear of such a thing. She found to her surprise that she had tears in her eyes. "Please," she begged again, "don't let your dog come any nearer." The room began to spin and she thought she was about to faint. She grabbed at the four-poster bed, holding on to consciousness with all her might. The Count's voice softened.
"My dear child," he said, "I had no desire to alarm you. You must be faint for lack of food. I will see that some supper is brought up to you straight away. It's outrageous that you've been so neglected."
He gave a deep bow and called for Balthazar.
"Forgive the intrusion,"
he said, closing the door softly behind him. Cedo remained statue still, listening to the scratching of claws and the clicking of heels as they retreated into the distance. Only then did she loosen her grip. She sank to the floor, resting her head in her hands, and prayed that Jan would hurry.